Hi there, I'm Kim. My friends and I have some stories to share. What do you expect from being a teenager?
Going out with friends more.
Making that money.
Getting a real relationship.
Driving Dad's 69 Camaro.
Meeting new friends. Sexual assault.
What?
Sexual manipulation.
Predatory people?
Wait.
Ongoing abuse. Buried trauma.
Broken boundaries. Touching without consent.
So it turns out sexual abuse is something that a lot of us end up dealing with. It's a messed up topic that nobody wants to talk about. But while nobody's talking about it, we're living with it.
As we get older, independence and jobs and relationships, they're great. But there are a lot of things that we don't think about that can lead to sexual abuse. That's why we want to talk about it. When I started going out with friends more and doing stuff on my own, I was having fun. But I was new to a lot of things.
I knew it was possible for someone to try to take advantage of a person my age, but I never imagined it happening to me.
And I wasn't used to having to stand up for myself in an unsafe situation.
Sexual abuse can come from a relative, a boss, a teacher, a church pastor.
A scout leader. A close friend. Someone on the internet.
It can even happen when you're on a date or just hanging out. Look, it happens to both girls and boys, and we want to show you how to stop sexual abuse before it causes more pain for you or your friends.
When you really think about it, you don't have to look far to find someone that's dealt with abuse.
Or someone that's got something on their mind that hurts to talk about.
Or someone that's been taken advantage of because they're growing up and want to fit in or have a relationship.
Or someone that feels guilty or responsible for someone else's abusive behavior.
Or someone that feels isolated and trapped by a situation. Everyone's got their own story. Even though sexual abuse is hard to talk about, sharing experiences helps us recognize sexual abuse in dangerous situations in our own lives.
Bottom line, if someone's behavior makes you uncomfortable, you can tell them to stop. And if they don't stop, they're in the wrong and you should get away.
We want to talk about sexual abuse.
We want to talk about preventing it from happening.
We want to talk about listening to ourselves and not giving in to social pressure or lies.
And watching out for our friends when they're in unsafe situations.
That means recognizing how abusive people can take advantage of you.
Abuse can feel very lonely and personal, but I think that by talking about it, we can get rid of the stigma.
Sexual abuse can catch you totally off guard, but experiences like ours can show you the red flags that can help keep you safe.
When a person manipulates you to gain your trust, it's called grooming.
And grooming can happen to anyone. But it doesn't happen overnight.
And by the time you realize something's wrong,
you feel like you can't stop it. Senior Pastor Paul was the head guy at my church. Everyone loved him. Because of him, I wanted to be a church leader. So I talked to him whenever I could. When he picked me to be his assistant at church, my parents were so proud. I could see my whole future ahead of me.
Thanks for the help again, Lucas. I'd be lost without you.
He was a great mentor. We talked about guy stuff and growing up and life, and everything made sense. He made me feel smart, and when I felt lonely, he could always tell. He was my friend. The church was my whole world. I wanted to be just like Pastor Paul. So if his long hugs made me uncomfortable, or his touches confused me, I'd tell myself I was wrong for feeling that way, because I trusted him. he was supposed to be right.
For me, the attention I got from my boss messed with my head, you know? I thought I was supposed to like it. I was stoked to have a job and to be making money. But when my boss AJ was around, things got confusing. She'd get close and talk about how I was her best worker and favorite guy. At first, the attention was nice, and an older woman maybe being into me? Every guy's dream, right? She'd invite me to hang out in her office and gave me beer.
Sometimes Paul picked me for special work with him.
I've got some more work to do in my office. Do you want to join me, Lucas?
I felt important, even though when we were alone, he would do weird things. Sometimes when we were in his office, he would show me porn. He said it was to teach me about sin and temptation. When he touched me, he said it was a way for people to show love, but it made me feel sick.
AJ was my first boss. Fresh Pack was my first job. And money was freedom, you know? And I wanted to keep my job. So I played along. Until this one night, when I closed. Hey, AJ, nobody else is scheduled for the night shift.
No, it's just gonna be us. You'll keep me safe.
My shift was almost over when it happened. I wish I could say I wasn't freaked out, but I was. It was one of those moments where your mind just goes numb, you know? And I tried to get a handle on what was happening, but all that came into my head was, I have to go.
With Paul, it got to a point where I couldn't ignore my feelings anymore.
You remind me a lot of myself as a boy, Lucas. Here, I think you'll enjoy this.
I kept telling myself, he's my friend. He's supposed to be looking out for me. But what if that's not true? And nobody would believe me anyway. In that moment, I just wanted out. Stop! I'd heard stories about weird things happening with coaches or church leaders before, but it can be hard to see when it's happening to you. In the beginning, grooming just looks like friendship, because praise, attention, and even some affection can feel harmless at first.
AJ was my boss, so it felt like I had to keep her happy to keep my job. But even though the special treatment felt good sometimes, I didn't want to feel uncomfortable at work.
Paul made me feel important, and everyone trusted him, even my parents. And he was always supposed to be in the right. Even though he gave me responsibility and praise, the way he acted made me feel sick to my stomach.
No matter how much power someone has or what you think might happen when you say no, if they make you feel uncomfortable, they're in the wrong.
I told my parents and the police, and even though everything finally stopped, I still can't believe the power Paul had over me.
Even if it's gone on a long time, and you've gone along with it, you can still speak up for yourself, get away, or get help.
When someone listens to you and makes you feel special, how could you suspect that they have something else in mind? When I felt lonely, he was there for me.
Whoa, you scared the hell out of me.
When I couldn't talk to my parents, I could talk to him. When I felt worthless, he made me feel appreciated. He understood me. So when should I have seen it coming? I babysat my niece and nephew during the week. Being at their house was like a vacation from mine. And Steve, well, Uncle Steve, was like my adult best friend.
Mary's got the kids. Let's go for a drive.
He'd take me out so I could talk about my school stress, or my issues with friends, or my fights with my family, and he'd find a way to make me laugh.
Hey, when your mom acts like a lawyer, you can plead the fifth. It'll hold up in court, trust me.
Besides the babysitting money, sometimes there'd be a gift. Should that have made me cautious? Whoa, I wanted this exact one.
Yeah, I saw you post about it online.
I remember when he asked me if I was dating anybody yet.
Well, why not?
Because guys don't look at me.
Oh, guys, look. A cute girl with curves gets all the attention.
He talked about sex a lot, and my body.
Show them what they want to see.
It was weird, but he made me feel more confident in myself. And so I told myself it was normal to talk about things like that with someone who's close. And for them to touch you in ways that, well, don't feel totally right, but you're not sure that they're wrong. And for them to make normal situations feel uncomfortable. When I realized that my relationship with my uncle wasn't normal, I thought it was too late.
Why don't we go down to the beach? Have some fun.
My mom's expecting me home.
We don't have to be long.
She'd noticed. She'd blow up again. We just stopped fighting.
Aw, you're no fun.
It's so easy to spot when it's happening to someone else. All the teasing and sex talk and gifts and touching. I didn't want to get him in trouble. I just wanted things to be normal again. But I didn't think it could be normal anymore because I'd let it go on for so long. I thought it was my fault. I spent months thinking I would keep it a secret forever, but I couldn't hide from my uncle. So I stopped babysitting my cousins and answering his calls. But our families lived so close. Was I just going to pretend everything was normal during the holidays? So I did the only thing I could think of. Mom, could we talk?
Yeah, honey, sure.
Now I understand that abuse can come from anyone, even a close relative. Sure, my uncle showed me affection, gave me gifts, and allowed me to confide in him. But lots of relatives do that stuff, and it's totally fine. So when did it go too far? The moment I felt uncomfortable. Pay attention to how others make you feel. When you realize something's wrong, that's when you have to say no and do whatever you can to be safe. Don't get caught up thinking about what might happen if you tell someone. You have to do what's best for you. Sometimes that means getting help from an adult you trust. Listen, no matter what the circumstance or how long it's been happening, it's never too late to stop it.
Everything seems so much more innocent in a text. Especially coming from your boyfriend. Kevin was this awesome guy I met online. He went to another school and he had a cool car. We talked all the time. He made me feel good. He was like my own private adventure. It was exciting and fun. When he started asking for revealing pictures, I guess I just thought it was normal. At first, it was embarrassing. But I was like, it's just a bikini top. And he said he really loved me. And yeah, it felt kind of good knowing somebody wanted to see me. Especially when I didn't always feel that good about myself. But it got to be so much pressure. He kept asking for more. And for me to take off my bra. It made me think about how much I really knew Kevin. We'd only actually hung out in person a few times. The last time we ended up at some guy's house party and things got really physical. I didn't say anything, but it kind of felt like that was all he wanted. A lot of his behavior was coming off so creepy. When I stopped sending them, he got pissed. I just wanted him to chill out with the requests. But he started sending, like, immature threats. Seriously? Really? So it was going downhill fast. I tried to ignore him, but he was blowing up my phone. Then the plot thickened. Jonathan?
Hey, Kim. Have you seen your picture up?
Oh my God. He posted one of my pictures. I had never felt betrayed like that before. Our private relationship, my trust, was being used against me. It was beyond over, and I let him know it.
Hello?
Kevin!
But Kevin still has my photos, and I can't control what he does with them. I loved how my relationship with him felt so private until it made me feel powerless. Be careful. Online relationships can be dangerous. That sense of privacy feels safe and exciting, but that privacy can also isolate you and lead to manipulation. But no matter what you've agreed to in the past, you can change your mind. And that decision should always be respected.
She's right. Actually, Kim, can I say something?
Please, do.
If you're the person pressuring someone to do something they're not comfortable with, after they've said no, you're acting like a predator. Being in a relationship means respecting the other person's choices. And I can't believe I have to say this, but if you're demanding nudes, sharing them, or threatening to share them, that's disgusting, not to mention illegal. Anyone who does that loses all respect.
Thanks, Jonathan.
No problem. Sorry for interrupting.
If you find yourself in a similar situation and you're struggling with what to do, talk to someone you trust. What happened to me has been hard to move past, but talking about it has helped a lot, and hopefully it can help you too.
When it comes to abusive parents, what comes to your mind? Do you think of physical, mental, and sexual abuse? Parents can be abusive in ways that are hard to detect. It doesn't matter how the parents express it, though. Abuse is abuse, no matter what. Long-term abuse will increase the chances of developing serious mental health problems that will be dragged into adulthood. Different forms of abuse will affect children in numerous ways. Curious to know more? Here are 14 subtle things an abusive parent can do to their children. 1. Little to no privacy. There's a huge difference between a parent protecting their child from harm versus giving them a lack of privacy. It's essential for parents to provide age-appropriate privacy to their children, such as allowing them to change alone in their room. 2. Invalidating emotions and reality. Parents can invalidate their children's feelings by telling them how to feel or completely denying their feelings altogether. This makes children feel unheard and internally conflicted. In the long run, children will have difficulties trusting their judgment and making decisions. 3. Giving the silent treatment. It's an immature way of handling things, and it's emotionally abusive. Parents use this tactic to exert their power or punish their children. Due to this, the children feel unheard, rejected, and develop low self-esteem. 4. Playing the victim card. This type of behavior is emotionally abusive because the parent doesn't take responsibility for their actions. This in turn can affect children in 2 ways. They can learn this type of behavior and use it as a coping mechanism when they're older, or develop feelings of guilt and shame and blame themselves for things that they shouldn't. 5. Gaslighting. This is a type of psychological abuse, and it's difficult to detect. It's a type of manipulation where the abuser creates doubt and confusion within the victim. A parent who gaslights their children will leave them feeling insecure, paranoid, anxious, and mistrusting. In extreme cases, the child will end up questioning their reality. 6. Threats of violence. It's emotionally abusive for parents to threaten their child with physical violence, even if they aren't going to use it. Children end up feeling unsafe around their parents and don't want to be home. 7. Favoring a child over another. Parents can act differently with their favorite child. For instance, giving them more attention, better gifts, less discipline, and more privileges. This will affect the other child by decreasing their self-esteem. They can develop depression, feel rejected, feel inadequate, and in the long run, fall into similar relationships outside of the home. 8. Being overly critical. This type of abuse occurs when a parent repeatedly criticizes their child. For example, harshly comparing their children with one another. Children end up developing low self-esteem, feeling inadequate, and worthless. 9. Taking control of your finances. Parents who take away their child's money are abusive and believe their children owe them. It's not the child's responsibility to pay back for anything. On the contrary, children should be encouraged to develop independence and learn how to correctly handle their money. 10. Emotionally absent. This type of abuse is again difficult to detect. In many cases, children don't notice they're being abused. When a parent is emotionally absent, the child will end up feeling unappreciated and unsupported. In severe cases, children can develop depression and become needy as an adult. 11. Using guilt. Parents who are constantly guilt-tripping their children are emotionally abusive, and it's a form of manipulation. This damages the child's confidence and self-expression. They end up feeling like a disappointment, and in many cases, children feel guilty for everything they do, even when it's correct. 12. Humiliation. Intentionally humiliating a child as punishment causes more harm than good. It emotionally drains children and affects their self-worth. It also teaches children that it's okay to bully one another. In the long run, children end up feeling shameful and become preoccupied with what others think of them. 13. Earning your parents' love. Parents should love their children unconditionally, but that isn't always the case. Parents who love conditionally withdraw love to manipulate the children into doing what they want. They only show affection when the children are behaving how they want them to. This deeply affects children emotionally. And lastly, 14. Taking away your independence. Some parents want their children to depend on them. It's their way of maintaining power and control, and this hinders the child's development. A parent can go as far as not allowing their child to make a single decision and even prevent them from learning necessary skills they need to become successful adults. Many of us struggle with different forms of abuse growing up. A lot of the times, it can be unintentional. No one's perfect, and sometimes parents can do harm to their children unwillingly. This obviously doesn't excuse their behavior. Parents need to become aware of how their behavior affects their children